Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maxine and today I'm going to be taking you through my process for constructing a top-down raglan shirt. Now, I'm actually refilming this intro because this video was supposed to be at a little bit of a different time for a little bit of a different purpose. It's finally getting a little bit warmer and one of my goals for this spring/summer is to knit and crochet tops that I can actually wear. Thinking tank tops, t-shirts, anything under that sphere of not being a sweater. I would like to give it a shot to make something and maybe use this opportunity to test out like a basic raglan tee pattern. I don't have a pattern for this. I'm going to be making it up as I go just to see if what I'm thinking in my head actually translates into a wearable piece for the summer. I did finish this project quite a while ago, however, it's not wearable in its current state, but that's not because of the construction of the garment, it's actually because the yarn that I used just unfortunately didn't produce a wearable product. The yarn that I used for this project was the Caron Blossom Cakes in the color of Radiant Rainbow, which was 69% cotton and 31% acrylic. Now, I do feel a little bit bamboozled by this yarn because it did feel a lot softer in the store. However, I did still want to post this video because I do think that the construction of the garment was definitely suitable for something wearable. So I do want to put it out there to give you some inspiration if you are thinking about knitting some shirts going into the summer months. So if anything, this project was a learning experience for me, but it's fine. You can't win them all, you know? With all of that being said, let's get into the actual construction of the garment. Yes! This is what the start of the project is looking like. It is the neckline. I actually learned how to do the tubular cast on for this, which is really a lot easier than I thought it would be. I had watched some videos about it previously and it looked really intimidating, but you know what? Once I got into the rhythm of it, it was pretty straightforward. You can see here, it makes a really nice edge on the neckline, and this is gonna be where the sweater starts, so it's gonna be nice and stretchy. I cast on 92 stitches, and I chose this because a raglan sweater that I am still not done, I cast on about 88 stitches for that, and I liked where it sat on my neck, so I went down a needle size that I did for that sweater when I originally did the cast on, and just cast on 4 extra stitches to try and like even things out. I did make a couple mistakes along the way. You can kind of see in some spots it's a little wonky, but these colors are very girly pop. I'm kind of surprised. I wasn't sure if this was going to be like more of a stripy yarn, but it's like very variegated and the colors kind of layer together, so I am looking forward to getting these blues and reds and purples in there. I think it's going to be really cute. I don't think it's as radiant of a rainbow as perhaps the name suggests, but it is quite fierce and I'm very excited. As usual, I'm just going off vibes, so I just placed stitch markers where the raglan increases are going to be. The blue markers here are going to indicate the front of the shirt, and then the pink markers are going to indicate the back of the shirt, and then this purple marker here is the beginning of the round. I did actually decide to redo the neckline and the cast on. I felt like the cast on previously was just a little bit too big, so I went down a full needle size to my 3.75 millimeter needles. This yarn does call for 5 millimeter needles, however, I am doing the stockinette in 4.5 millimeter needles instead. One, because my 5 millimeters are being used for another project, but two, I just kind of thought this would look cute with slightly smaller stitches. Now, this might not be a good idea because I only have a limited amount of yarn. I only have 2 cakes of this, so maybe I'm making a terrible mistake, but at this point, I don't really care because I like how it looks. And we're gonna get what we're gonna get. And this is the test anyway. I think the tubular cast on was a really good choice for this because look at these details. Hello, it looks so good. I'm glad I learned how to do this because I will absolutely be doing this for all of my necklines into the future. It looks so good. At this point, I am doing some German short rows to shape the neckline. I don't know if you can see, but at the front here, there hasn't been any shaping done. All of these short rows are at the back to bring the back of the neckline up a little bit so that it sits nicely on my body. And I believe at this point I've done 2 back and forth short rows, so I will probably be doing like 6 or 7, maybe 8, depending on how I'm feeling. But I highly recommend this if you are making sweaters or tops or anything, especially if you are knitting. It makes a huge difference having a neatly shaped neckline. It's just going to really elevate the final look of your project. And they're very easy. Do not listen to what the internet says about them being hard. Literally, if you can knit and purl, you can do German short rows. I promise you. It's really not that deep. So I'm actually kind of gagged because it's only been 4 days since I started this and I have an entire yoke done already. And I think it's because I'm so obsessed with this yarn. I was not expecting this yarn to work up so cutely, but like this color gradient, like this is so girly pop. I am obsessed. It's so beautiful. It's called Radiant Rainbow. I don't necessarily think this is rainbow. There are hints of rainbow in it, but it's missing orange and yellow. So I don't really think it can call itself a rainbow, but it's so nice. Also, the difference between working with a full acrylic yarn versus this cotton acrylic blend is like night and day. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be working with a fully acrylic yarn ever again, because this is just, I can already tell that this feels so much nicer and is so much more wearable. And even though it is still partly a synthetic material, it is more natural fiber than synthetic. So I think that's going to speak to the breathability of the garment after it's all done, but also just like the overall feel of the garment. I don't necessarily mind acrylic, but like, if I can get this for like the same price as a fully acrylic yarn, why would I not? It is a Caron cake, so it is a little bit more expensive than say like loops and threads from my goals, but I just like, I'm over that shit. What's funny about this is that I actually literally have not filmed anything since I checked in with y'all about the neckline. But to break down what I've done to this point, it's just knitting in the round. After the neckline in the German short rows, you pick your spot to do your increases. So I started with 10 stitches between the shoulders here, and then I just divided the remainder by 2. So if I do 96 minus 20, that's 76, and then 76 divided by 2. So I did 38 stitches on each side to start, and that gave us the raglan shape. So I did this one a little bit differently than I did my previous sweater, which was I did 2 knit stitches on each side of the marker, and then I did my increase here and increase here. So coming up to the marker, 2 stitches before the marker, I did a make one right, then I knit 4 times, and then I did a make one left, and then continued to knit in the round all the way around to produce this beautiful yoke. This is now at a spot where it is just past my shoulders, and that's where I'm going to seam off the seams because I want this to be a little bit more fitted. If I was doing a sweater, I would want more of a drop shoulder, so I would make this yoke a little bit larger to just kind of get it to like under my boob area, and then I would seam it off. But this is going to be a shirt. We are going to be making a top, not a sweater. So I am going to make it a little more fitted, and I'm going to section off the sleeves now. I'm also very hopeful because I only started off with 2 cakes, and I have only got through about half of this cake, which is pretty cool. I thought I would be like almost done a cake at this point, but I'm not. So this gives me hope that we will actually have enough yarn to do the whole project. So to start sectioning out the sleeves, I have knit close to this marker here, because the sleeve is going to be sectioned off just before your first raglan increase. So I'm gonna just knit up to the point here right before the increase. So this is just a regular knit stitch, and then this would have been a stitch that was increased onto my previous knit stitches in here, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But basically what I'm gonna do is that, and then I'll make a little sleeve hole, but I'm gonna do some like chains in the middle and stuff. Not chains, we're not crocheting. What do you call it? Cast on. I'm gonna cast on a few stitches to make it more of an actual hole. So it's not like this, it's gonna be like that. This time I used scrap yarn to hold the loops for the sleeves. So at this point, this is where I'm gonna cast on using the working yarn. So normally for a sweater, I'd do like 10 cast on stitches at this point, but since I made the shoulder a little higher, I'm gonna add some more stitches to it to give myself some more room. So I'm gonna just say like 16, I don't know, and then if it's not right, I'll just have to come back and redo it, which is fine. But you know, it's kind of a chance you gotta take, unless you want to do math, which I don't really want to do. So here we are. Literally for this, you can just like finger it. It doesn't have to be that crazy. Just finger cast on. I'm not gonna do like long tail or tubular or anything like that. Just a good old finger cast on. It really is that simple. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm just gonna keep going until I have 16. And then now that I have these stitches cast on, I am just going to continue knitting to join. And that's basically it. Now I have a sleeve hole, and as I keep going around, it'll build itself out and it won't look so sketchy. Okay, so remember when I said I don't think this actually looks like a rainbow? I am seeing the rainbow in this little section. I think it just depends on how the colors group together. Because this, I'm seeing our red, orange, yellow, green, whatever this is, blue, and purple, all here. But as you can see on the rest of it, I haven't really gotten that specific gradient, which is fine. I love how this looks. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I guess rainbow lives up to its name, so I love that. Well, I have to admit, y'all, I am a little bit upset because I'm almost done this cake and I came across my first factory knot, which sucks because I have gotten through this whole thing not having to change yarns at all. So the only end that I currently have to weave in is this one at the top. I'm now gonna have to cut and rejoin with only this much yarn, and I don't know if this is gonna fully be enough to finish the body. It's probably not. So I might take this opportunity now to start on the sleeves so I can get a better picture of how this is all gonna fit at the end, because I was gonna wait to start the sleeves to finish all of this yarn, but now I just have to cut it anyways. So mildly annoying, but not the end of the world, I guess. So funny little thing that just happened. I realized that I have been knitting my sleeve for the first round with my 4mm needle, and I've been sliding the yarn up my 4.5mm needle, and that is supposed to be the opposite. And I did not double check after I picked up stitches. So that's awkward. Well, I do have a very exciting update, and that is that I have a full sleeve done. And with that full sleeve done, I have not even finished the first cake. However, at this point, I am going to start the next cake because this is a very awkward amount of yarn and I don't want to run out before I do the bind off on the second sleeve. So we're going to save this for a little scrap yarn journey, perhaps. The sleeve was a little bit of trial and error. I made a whole sleeve and I didn't like it, so I took it back apart, which is to be expected. I'm not following a pattern. I'm just going on the vibes of the universe. But I did a ton of decreases, way more decreases than I thought for this sleeve. I ended up doing 20 rows of stockinette, and every other row I did a decrease. 2 decreases to be exact. I did one left-leaning decrease, and then I did another right-leaning decrease on the other side to try and bring the directionality of the stitches like toward the armpit, if that makes any sense. I did do it backwards for the first 2 decreases, and I didn't fix it because I had just ripped back and I didn't want to rip back again. So it's a little janky toward the armpit, but I don't think anyone's going to notice it. And if there really is that stark of a difference in the next sleeve that I do from the first one, I'll just redo it at the end, whatever. I'm also like halfway done the body at this point, so I'm really not far off from being done this project, and I'm really gonna lock in this week to see if I can actually make it to the bottom and bind off the body and then have a wearable shirt before it gets too hot out, because it is a little moist out today. And this shirt, because it is cotton and acrylic and it is a medium weight shirt, this is not going to be a summer shirt. This is going to be like a spring fall shirt. That has become very clear to me the longer I have worked on this, which is fine. After this, we will be starting on summer projects. So looking forward to getting this done. It's so cute. Also, just like a useful tip, maybe, or not, I don't know. I like to use a crochet hook when I'm knitting to pick up stitches for like a neckline if I do that, or in this case under the arms, just because I feel like I have a little bit more control over it because I can pick it up with the hook. That's what I did here, and that's what I'm gonna do on the other side. I also like to use a slightly bigger hook because I find that when you pick up stitches, you want them to be a little bit bigger, just there's a little bit more give in the seam area, because if you do it too tightly, then it's gonna like make the transition zones kind of crunchy, and we don't want that. So I'm also just now kind of realizing that if I want the sleeves to look consistent, I'm gonna have to try and find this like color way in the yarn of the new cake, which I guess it might be fine if they don't look the same, but I'm gonna see if I can dig through this new cake and find a similar spot. So if they are a little bit different, then maybe it won't look as obvious, but I don't know. This yarn's weird. It's pretty, but I don't fully understand the color changes yet. They don't seem to be consistent. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. Now, there has been a little bit of a time skip between when I finished this sleeve to right now. I'm going to be very honest with you. I got really busy these last 2 weeks and kind of forgot to check in with y'all about my progress on the shirt. So the shirt is now done, but I'm going to work backwards to go over with you all how I actually finished the body, and then I will show you the end result. Okay, so after I finished both sleeves, I moved on to finishing the body, and this was really straightforward. It was really just working stockinette in the round, but I did do some decreases to cinch in the bottom, just because after I finished the yoke and started building the body, it was looking a little loose. And my idea for the shirt was that it would be a little bit more form-fitting, just to be more flattering for summer, and I really want to wear it with a high-waisted pant. Now, I find that I can be kind of inconsistent when it comes to doing decreases. Sometimes I like to do 2 on each side under the sleeves, and then sometimes I like to do 1 on each side when I go around, and it really just is whatever feels best to me at that time. For the shirt, I was doing single-sided decreases for sort of like midway through the body, just to like cinch it a little bit at the waist. And as I got to the bottom of the body, I started doing 2 decreases on each side just to kind of like snatch it in at the bottom. Sorry, maybe I should reiterate. My first round of decreases were more like under the breast line, and then the last set of decreases, because this is more of like a crop top or like baby tee sort of deal, where it like ends at the waistline just so I can wear it with a high-waisted pant, that was more about cinching the waist. That's just technicalities, but just want to be clear with y'all what I did. When I do the decreases, I like to orient them in a specific direction. So when I'm going down the side, especially when I'm at the bottom, I like to make the decreases really like taper in towards each other, so that when the product is finished, you can't necessarily like see it. Like it looks more of a seamless integration down into the waistband. And the way that works is when I'm going around, the first decrease I do an SSK, which makes it lean over to the left, and then I do a knit 2 together, which makes it over to the right. So on each side of the shirt, I did those pairs of decreases as I went around, and I did that 4 times when I was cinching in the bottom part. The mid part, I actually didn't write this down, which is so funny because I literally just put out my update video saying I was starting a craft journal and I fully just skipped a step. But if I'm actually looking at the shirt, I think I can see, I'm pretty sure I can see only single decreases in the mid part. And again, I just vibe it. I don't know. But that's what I did, and I think it turned out pretty well. So for those ones, I just did on the, I guess like if you're looking at the front of the shirt, I do SSKs on the right side and then knit 2 together on the left side so that those decreases are all going forward. I don't know if that's necessarily what you should do, but that is what I did and what I sometimes do. Now, to finish off the bottom band, I just did 1x1 ribbing like I did on the cuffs and on the neckline. However, this time I didn't reduce the needle size just because I kind of wanted to see how it looked. I'm not really loving how the neckband and the sleeve cuffs turned out with reducing my needle size. Usually that works for me, but for some reason, the neckband is just like really stretched out, and I don't really know why that is because I started at the top, so I don't feel like it should be stretched out. I've never had this problem, but I also, the last 2 raglans that I made, I did the neckline at the end. The second one I picked up stitches. The first one was like a full neckline surgery, so I ended up just building the neckline from the bottom up, and it turned out a lot nicer. So I don't really know what happened here. Maybe it just like stretches itself out from being pulled from like the raglan increases or just going in the round. I don't really know, but I definitely have some gripe about how the neckband turned out, and I don't know if that's because I reduced the needle size or if it just is a symptom of a top-down raglan construction. I really don't know. But I am a little bit happier with the bottom band. Mind you, I haven't actually blocked it yet, so I'm not sure how these things are going to change how they feel after blocking. I am happier doing the 1x1 ribbing on this particular garment in the same needle size that I was doing the stockinette stitch in, which is a 4.5mm needle. Anyway, the shirt is now done, so I'm going to try it on. This is a really bad corner to stand in. Whoops. So this is it before blocking. I'm very happy with it. I think it sits at the perfect length. I probably could have made it like an inch longer, maybe like half an inch longer, but I'm actually perfectly fine with where it is because it's like barely a space. I'm not trying to like have my full tummy out or anything, but a little, you know, a little peek might be kind of cute here and there. It really is a great fit to wear with a high-waisted short or a high-waisted pants, so I am very happy about that. Now, I am interested to see how this yarn will change after it is blocked because it's feeling a little right now. So we are going to get that done and then compare. Especially because this is an acrylic-based yarn. I recognize that I probably shouldn't be making t-shirts with acrylic-based yarns. However, it is more cotton, so I kind of thought it would be a little bit softer than it actually is. But we will see. I'm more concerned about it being breathable. It's a pretty cool day out today, so I think that this type of shirt would be perfect to like have a little extra something on, but the sun is still out. At this point, I definitely do recognize that this might not have been the best yarn for this project, but I was already committed, so here we are. Okay, yes, we are all done. The shirt is blocked, and I use the term blocked loosely because I still don't have proper blocking mats, and my goal going forward is to get those proper blocking mats, but honestly, I don't really know where to get them. So if you have any suggestions of where to get good quality and relatively cheap blocking mats, please leave them in the comments so that I can begin my search. I'm very happy with the fit of this t-shirt. I think I crafted it very well. I think doing a raglan construction for a t-shirt is actually really smart because you can just make it to fit. You don't really have to do any guesswork or math other than the cast on, especially if you do it top down. But I'm not gonna lie to you all, this yarn was not the right yarn for this project. I think it felt a lot different than it ended up feeling in a garment, and I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if that's happened to any of you before, and if it has happened to you before, let me know. But I am having a little bit of regret about the time that I put in to make this, because I just really don't think it's going to be wearable, even though it's really cute, and that makes me really sad. I definitely think this would be better as a sweater, and if I'm going to be honest, again, I may go back in the future and turn this into a sweater, and that might be another video for the fall time. We'll see, but it's just, yeah, it's really unfortunately not giving wearable t-shirt. You might be able to see, I don't know how much the texture of the shirt is going to come through on the camera, but it is a little more acrylic feeling than I wanted it to be for the fact that it is 60% cotton and only 40% acrylic. I was hoping it would be a little bit softer and a little bit more breathable, but it just kind of feels like an acrylic yarn, and I don't love that. But I did take a chance on this yarn when I was beginning this project, and I really had no expectations, so this was definitely a learning experience for me, and going forward in the future I will be using 100% cotton or other natural fibers to make t-shirts and summer, spring, warm based garments. Those are just my thoughts on the actual construction of the shirt. Now, I do want to take some time to review this yarn. If any of you are curious about using Caron Blossom Cakes for your projects in the future, I actually have more positives than negatives to say about this yarn, so let's get into it. The first thing that I really liked about this yarn is that it was actually really easy to knit with. Just blanket, like really easy to work with yarn. It was not splitty. It frogged really nicely. I did make a couple of mistakes and have to write back, but I didn't have any issues frogging it. I will say, however, there was one thing that I noticed with this yarn, and it's that the yarn would like stick to itself. So there were times where I almost thought the yarn was knotted, but it wasn't knotted. It was just like stuck to itself. I don't know if any of you have experience with that, but it's really weird. And there were moments where I had to like rip it apart from itself, and it didn't break the yarn or anything, but it like literally I had to like rip them apart because they got so tight somehow. I don't know how that works, physics. In terms of the size of the cake, I think these cakes are really big bang for your buck. I felt like the Caron Cloud cakes I ate through a little bit faster than this. And mind you, this is a knit project versus when I used my Caron Cloud cakes, it was a crochet project, and crochet projects are notoriously more yarn eaty than knit projects. So I actually have almost half of a cake left over. It only took me about 1.5 cakes to make this whole t-shirt. So if you were to make a whole sweater, you could probably get off on only using 2 cakes, depending on your size, of course. I generally wear like a women's large or like a men's medium in terms of clothing. So if you are around my size and want to make something similar, like a shirt or a sweater or what have you, 2 cakes will probably be more than enough. Whereas when I made my hooded hexagon cardigan with my Caron Cloud cakes, I had to go through half of the 3rd cake that I bought. So it was about 2.5 cakes for that. So just be mindful if you are going to use these brands of yarn that if you're using a crochet project or using a knit project, you might need more for a crochet project. I did already kind of mention this, but for the fact that this is a predominantly cotton yarn, it does feel more like an acrylic yarn, so I would only use this for fall and winter projects. I think this would be really nice for like a cardigan or a sweater, especially if you want to get something that's a little bit cheaper, but still kind of feels like a nice knit. I will say this does feel nicer than just a straight up acrylic yarn. Like I have made an entire raglan sweater using Red Heart Super Saver, and this is nicer. I would absolutely wear this as a sweater. I have a really hard time wearing my Red Heart Super Saver sweater because I just get really hot in it, and it's a really hot day out today, and I do have air conditioning on. I don't have central air, but there is an air conditioner unit out there, and I'm not overheating or anything as I'm sitting here talking to you. So that is definitely a good sign in terms of the material makeup of this shirt and of this yarn, but it's more the feeling of it. The actual texture of it on your hands and on my body right now feels more like an acrylic yarn, which is very unfortunate, or fortunate if that's what you like. If that's what you like, go off. That just wasn't what I was looking for in this particular project. The last thing I want to say about this yarn, which was definitely my favorite part of it, is that the color striations of this yarn are amazing. I absolutely love how this gradient works up. It is so pretty. And assuming it is the same type of striation or gradient among the other blossom cakes, I think if you find a color or assortment of colors that you like in the blossom cake, you're gonna make a nice thing regardless. This rainbow sort of like girly pop bubblegum pastel moment is just so cute, and it really filled my heart with joy while I was making this garment. And I would love to make a different garment with this yard in the same colorway. That is really all I have for you for this video, for this project. If you did enjoy this process, thank you so much for being here and for keeping up with my content. My name is Maxine, and on this channel I talk about knit and crochet and being queer. So if that sounds good to you, if you are a queer person or a fierce ally who likes to consume queer content, or if you just like yarn stuff, why not hit that subscribe button and stick around to follow along with the rest of the videos that I will be posting in the future, because I would be so happy to have you. If you are planning to work on any knit or crochet projects for the summer, let me know in the comments because I would love to hear what you are working on. I've already started working on a couple of boleros, and I will be making a bucket hat finally, and then I will be moving on to make some more shirts and tanks as we go through the summer. So please come along for the ride. I'll try to make it as fun as possible. Anyway, thanks for being here. Bye.